Ladies and gentlemen, you have 2 minutes to find seats for food fanatic Chef Greg Matchett's demo on holiday squash. He's gonna wow us, and we're gonna be able to evaluate by tasting. 2 minutes. All right, I think we're going to get started. It is noon. Please welcome to the stage Chef Greg Matchett. Chef, thank you for being here. Now, you might not know, Chef is usually the MC, and I usually get to stand behind the scenes, but today we're switching it for you so you can see his culinary skills in action. What are you making for us?
Okay, well, thanks for being here, everybody. I think I know them walking in right now. Come on up front, people. So today we're going to be talking about winter squash and gourds. And just a quick background on me. Again, food fanatic chef for a company called US Foods. I love my job. I've been doing this for 29 years. And thanks for being here. All right? So should we get started?
Let's get started.
Okay, quick overview. We're going to be making butternut squash ravioli. Okay? We're also going to be making a butternut squash bisque. We've got a vanilla foam and some anise spice and candied walnuts and fried sage. And I'm going to show you how to take this pumpkin right here and stuff it. We've got roasted spaghetti squash. We've got roasted butternut squash and roasted acorn squash. Why squash? Squash?
Why squash? That's a lot of squash.
It's a lot of squash, but squash is, I feel like it's an underutilized vegetable. People don't really give it all it could be, and it's economical, so you can buy it cheap, and with a little bit of seasoning and flavor and love, you can have awesome squash. So turban squash, has anybody seen this one? Super sweet, all right, does well with dry heat cooking. Does everybody know what I mean by dry heat cooking? Roasting, sauteing, baking in the oven. Who knows what this one is?
I hear butternut.
It's a butternut. You're exactly right. Are we giving prizes away?
Cred.
I'll give you a plate of ravioli.
You've got food cred.
Butternut squash. Good job. All right. How about this one? What's this look like? Acorn squash. That's right. We're going to stuff this one. And then this is it's a spaghetti squash. By far the least expensive of all of the squashes up here.
You guys know your squash.
If you buy one of these for a family of 4 or 6, you can feed them for a couple of days, and this will cost you $2, okay? Really good squash. This one, I don't know what this is. I got this on a farm. Does anybody know what this is? I don't know. It's kind of like a pumpkin hybrid thing, so I just brought it because it was cool. So.
Pumpkin variety.
What is it? It's a buttercup? Where's the buttercup? I didn't bring a buttercup. All right, so real quick,
what I'm excited about, Chef, is it looks like you have come up with a lot of really different ways to do squash.
So let me go over, well, we went over the plates, Yeah, you can do so many things with squash. I want to get right into it because we got a lot to go over. So what I did here, this is just a miniature little pumpkin, okay? What do I do with the miniature little pumpkin? Well, I cooked it. I steamed it in my steamer, okay? So it's soft. All I'm gonna do now is make it look beautiful like this. You don't want to cut it when it's not cooked. It's gonna be hard to cut. So I'm gonna take my King Arthur sword here and just square off the bottom, okay? And then the same thing on top, I'm gonna square off the top. Can everybody see that? That's pretty easy. I wanna talk about the station setup. Everybody cooks at home, and if you have an organized station, it's gonna be more fun to cook. I put a tabletop trash can nearby. I didn't even take a step to go to my trash can, so I can be efficient all day long. I love that. I've got spoons, gloves, salt and pepper, and knives. You gotta have a lot of knives, and they should be sharp. So I'm gonna take my knife and just hollow this out really quickly. Here we go.
We're probably not gonna be that fast at home.
That's okay. Okay, and I take my spoon within arm's reach, and I scoop out the seeds, and it really works easily, and it's fast because the squash is already cooked. Wouldn't that look good on your Christmas table, though? A stuffed
That's really
miniature
cute.
pumpkin. What could you stuff it with? Let's toss around some ideas. Who's got an idea? I've got rice in this one. Can anybody think of another idea?
Any idea?
Risotto?
If you raise your hands, I can come to you with the mic too, so we can all hear each other's tips.
Okay, so I've got quinoa. Everybody knows quinoa is healthy. It's a complete vegetable protein, and it's mixed with some brown rice. It's fully cooked. It's cold. Dried cranberries to stay in season. They're in. I've got a little goat cheese. I already crumbled that up. And since we're cooking, our job is to make food taste good. So you need a little salt and pepper. Okay? And I melted a little butter. Does everybody here like butter? You like butter. All right. And then I've got some parsley that's been chopped up. Was that easy? It's pretty easy. So I'm gonna mix that up real nice.
Tell us how much time, you have everything beautifully measured out here. How much prep time goes into this one? Came together in 5 minutes here.
If you have the ingredients at home, if you're not including shopping, half hour. And that's including cooking the rice and the pumpkin.
How long did you cook the pumpkin for?
Okay, that's a good question. So I just cooked it whole, and I put it in a really hot steamer oven, and I left it in there for a good 20 minutes.
That's
It's
fast.
tender, it's soft. So here we go, this is finished. And then I'm gonna just plate it up right here. Boom, that is done. Easy?
Beautiful.
Cool, I'm glad you guys like it. I'll put that right over there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
What's next?
what is
Now,
next?
chef, tell us, how did you get into food? When did that
How
happen?
did I get into food? Well, I was encouraged at a young age to pursue what I was doing. I got a really good job in high school, and I took a keen to food, and I went to culinary school, and I just stuck with it. So I think having a good work ethic and being encouraged at a young age is how it worked.
I know that we have mom and dad in the audience today.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
Are you guys a cooking? Were you a cooking family? Was he like a chef when he was little? 4 or 14? 14.
Okay, so the hardest thing about cutting this squash, everybody, is gonna be what? It's round. And we like our fingers, right? So you take your biggest knife you can, and you just hold that thing down. You could take a wet towel to steady it a little bit, but put a lot of weight in there and square up to your board. Cut both ends off.
And have a sharp knife.
Gotta have a King Arthur sword, all right? I am just gonna peel this, just like this, all the way around. I'm only gonna peel half of it for you. Oops. Okay, so we've peeled it. I'm just gonna cut off a big slab of it. Okay? And can we all do that? That's pretty easy. That's gonna go right back over there. Now, I want big chunks. Okay, so all I'm gonna do right now is just take my knife and cut big chunks. 1, 2, 3. All right, that's nice and easy. So, can we agree that we can all get to this point? So
No
these
questions.
squash, when you see them in the store, don't say to yourself, wow, what do I do with that? How do I get into that thing? Okay, peel it and chop it up nice and big. People like big chunks of squash. How are we gonna season this, you ask? I'm glad you asked. Here we go. So I've got all my prep done. We're gonna roast this in the oven. And we're gonna do 3 recipes out of this. We're gonna serve some of it just like this, roasted. We're gonna take some of it and make a ravioli out of the filling. And the third way we're gonna do it is we're gonna take it and puree it and add some other seasonings and make a soup. So you gotta get into the squash first and then you gotta get it roasted. So for all 3 recipes, the preparation is the same, okay?
Well,
All we do
Chef,
now,
could you save it at the cubed point so that you could make a different squash recipe every night of the week?
I'd say this is good for 3 or 4 days in the fridge already cut up. Okay, clarified butter, boom, right there. Okay, and that's gonna add flavor and it's gonna help the heat transfer in there nice and quick. Generous amount of salt and pepper, I mixed them together. I've got fresh thyme, and that's gonna go in. I've got a little bit of brown sugar. Okay, I've got a little bit of maple syrup, just a little. You don't like maple syrup? No problem. Use a little honey, okay? Last thing we're gonna do, and this is really a trick that I taught myself. I don't know how I found out. I'm gonna add a little bit of water, okay? What's that water gonna do? That's gonna help make a glaze in the bottom of the pan. So when this is in the oven, the water from the squash and the water in the pan is gonna evaporate and reduce down, and all that liquid is gonna become a nice syrupy glaze. Okay, and it's gonna bake into your squash and it's gonna be amazing. All right? So you got 3 options on sugar: brown sugar, maple syrup, or honey. Okay?
Nice.
Yeah. So this goes into the oven, maybe 40 minutes, uncovered, okay? I've got one in the oven already. The magic of television. I'm gonna clean my board up here, and I'm gonna show you how to make the butternut squash ravioli.
Has anyone in the audience made ravioli at home? Show of hands. Oh, all right.
Cool.
You're more advanced than I am.
Okay.
Homemade ravioli seems a little intimidating to me.
So
Chef.
I'm gonna show you a quick way to do it. You can buy prefabricated lasagna sheets in the frozen section, and that's what I did right here. If you wanna make your own pasta, you can make your own pasta too. Once it's nice and thin, okay, we're gonna take a little bit of the filling. What's in the filling? Who remembers? Chopped up butternut squash that's been roasted. You pull it out of the oven, and you put it on your cutting board, and you chop it up and you make a nice little paste. Do you want to add cheese? Add cheese. You want to add salt and pepper? Add salt and pepper. Go crazy with it. Okay? And I'm just going to take a little bit of that ravioli filling and put it right there.
We're
got
kind of
that?
catching that on the screen.
Okay.
Good.
Can everybody see that?
I don't think it's catching it. If you moved it a little bit closer to the stove, we might see it on the screen. There we go.
I'll just put it on the stove.
Beautiful.
There we go. Okay, so I've got my filling right there. I'm gonna fold this over. Okay. I've already got this on a cutting board. I'm gonna cut my pasta. It's a little big right there. So a lot of different ways you can use this squash. Okay, I'm gonna do a fold over ravioli for this one. Okay. And if
You're just using a fork there?
I'm just using a fork. If you're gonna make these for the holidays, you need to definitely make them ahead of time, freeze them and cook them, okay? And then you can pull them out and use them as such. So I've already got some done. It's that easy though. I wanted to show you how easy that was to put that together. So another thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna make the soup. So we've got our roasted butternut squash, and I'll get this out of the way right there. So I'm gonna take an onion and my favorite soup pot, okay? I'm gonna cut my onion up. All right. The trick is not to cut yourself on the camera.
Chef, do you have any disaster stories of cutting yourself? I mean, in 30-something years.
Do you want to look at my hands?
Are there scars?
We had to fillet 8,000 pieces of swordfish, and we were gonna stuff them. And I had about 20 people around me, and I had a brand new fillet knife. And I said, here's what we're gonna do. And I went, and I just filleted open my hand. It wouldn't stop bleeding for about 3 hours. And you can still see the scar, but it's okay now. Okay, so onions are in our pot. How do you make soup? We're gonna sweat it or saute it. Add a little bit of butter, boom, that goes in. We've got our roasted butternut squash. You don't need to puree it, as long as it's cooked ahead of time. In it goes, okay? We're gonna put a lid on it. We're gonna pretend that this is our lid. It's gonna simmer, simmer, simmer. What else do we wanna put in there? Maybe a little bit more fresh thyme. Okay? After a little bit, we're gonna add some fresh cream. There we go. All right, we're gonna simmer that a little bit longer. While that's simmering, I actually have it made in the back. We're gonna roll right into the spaghetti squash, okay? This is the hardest squash to cut, if you want my honest opinion. You might want a serrated knife. I'm gonna try it with my French knife. All you need to do on this one,
What makes this one more difficult, Chef?
it's really hard skin on the outside, and it's round,
It's very round.
and my knife is sharp. Oh, ooh. All right, so if you're gonna do this, put a towel right here on your hand, so if you cut yourself, you don't really cut yourself. So just work your way down the squash. Congratulations.
You did
That
it.
was good. All right. So we're gonna scrape our seeds out, and the way you cook spaghetti squash, the way I like to cook it, the easiest way I've found to cook it is roasting. You can save the seeds. What are some things you can do with the seeds? Does anybody save the seeds to their squash?
You guys save your seeds?
What do you do with them?
What do we do? Do you have a seasoning preference?
It looks like they roast them over there, which is good.
Anyone want to share a recipe tip? Hold on. Green herbs, salt, pepper, and just green herbs. That sounds good. Does anyone try like a cinnamon sweet version? Have you done that, Chef? Chef, what do you do with pumpkin seeds, squash seeds?
Dry them out and roast them. Add
Just plain,
salt.
and then add
Yep.
salt.
Okay, we've got our cleaned out spaghetti squash, okay? I've got water right here. I'm gonna add a little bit of water. The water helps it steam, and I'm gonna bake it in the oven. You don't need, foil, or you don't need to wrap it, you don't need a lid. So just put this in the oven, and then it comes out of the oven.
What makes
Okay.
spaghetti squash different from other squash? Why does it do this little trick?
Say that again.
Why does it look like spaghetti? Why does it do that?
That's just the way it was made. That's
Just-
genetics
there's-
of the squash. So the best way to season this spaghetti squash, and you're gonna love this. Remember, this is a really economical squash, okay? You're gonna take a fork. Where's my fork? Here it is. Once it comes out of the oven, 40 minutes. You can even go an hour. All you need to do is just scrape it like this, okay? And then it looks like spaghetti. Okay? That's why they call it spaghetti squash. Sauteed mushrooms. Okay? Sun-dried tomatoes. You always should rehydrate your sun-dried tomatoes. White wine. Okay? I'm gonna put some sun-dried tomatoes in there.
Chef, where is your favorite place to get ingredients?
My favorite place for what?
Ingredients.
Ingredients? I like Marzik's, I like Whole Foods. I like to go to 3 or 4 different stores before I get everything.
Do you enjoy shopping?
I will go
grocery
to
shopping?
Costco, Sam's Club, and Walmart for commodity items, and I'll also go to specialty stores. Amazon has a lot of good stuff. Sun-dried tomatoes, mushrooms, fresh parsley, salt and pepper. Okay, and we're just gonna mix this up. What are we missing in here, everybody? We're missing a little butter. How about some questions? Who's got a question about anything? Holiday meal, cooking in general, the last time you burned something and why?
Info on Chef Greg.
Okay.
Okay, we got a question. Hold on. Coming to you.
What about chopped up onions, Chef?
What is it? What's the question? Something about an onion?
Chopped up onions to add, Chef?
To here? Oh, yeah. Fresh shallots. As long as you saute them ahead of time, I think that would be a great idea. Yes. Okay, so I'm actually going to try this because I know it's going to be really good.
You can't
It's
trust
awesome.
a chef that doesn't eat his own food.
It is awesome. All you got to do is bake this in the oven, or you could use it as a stuffing or anything you want. It is really good. Okay, I want to get back to our soup. Our soup is simmering. We've added our cream. We've got our butternut squash in there. Who's got one of these? A lot of people,
Immersion
okay?
blender.
So this will help you from carrying the pan over to the sink or the blender.
Well, and
So-
yesterday we talked about the potential for blenders to explode, right?
That's right.
This is different. An immersion blender
It's an
doesn't
immersion
explode.
blender. This is a good motor, all right? Just don't put that end in there, and you're gonna puree it, and then you can strain your soup off and season it as you like. It's that easy, folks. Last thing we're gonna do right here is we're gonna make our acorn squash. Okay. Again,
Chef, how far in advance could you make this butternut squash soup? Because I know at the holidays I'm always trying to balance the workload.
well, I feel like Thanksgiving Day, your oven is just packed, right?
Right.
Because of the turkey.
And the stuffing and the potatoes.
And the stuffing and the potatoes and the
green
everything.
beans. Yeah.
So my only advice would be to start cooking a week ahead of time. Cranberry sauce, soup.
Can the soup be frozen?
Soup can be frozen.
And then I see you have crock potted it in the back.
Yeah. Have a good plan when it comes to
How do you handle that?
Thanksgiving.
How do you handle the division of labor for big holiday meals? You just start cooking a week ahead of time?
cook a week ahead of time. Potluck. Okay,
And
so we're going to cut both ends off of that squash. We're going to cut it right in half. I did not do a good job cutting that in half. Anyway, it'll roast up just fine. So the basic squash 101, everything gets the ends cut off, and then you scrape the seeds out. Have you noticed the consistency in that? Are you in front of the speaker again? Is that me?
I didn't move.
Okay. So all you need to do with this one, a little bit of salt and pepper, okay? And you're gonna roast this in the oven with a little bit of butter. Okay? And just like everything else, about 30 to 40 minutes, okay? So when that comes out of the oven, I'm gonna show you what it's gonna look like. Okay?
Sometimes, Chef, I get intimidated with acorn squash because it's so knobby. Like, how do I get the skin off? Or do you just eat it in the skin?
I like to eat it with the skin.
Okay.
Why not?
Why not?
Okay. So that acorn squash is going to come out of the oven, and it's going to look exactly the same, and then you're gonna cut it. And then I like to do nice little pieces like that, okay? So, what else are we missing here? The soup, the squash, the spaghetti squash. I think I'm ready to serve some
Put
food.
it all together. Okay. Are you guys ready to eat some of this? We've talked about it being simple and economic, but it needs to be delicious too,
It
right?
needs to be delicious. So here's what I'm gonna do, okay? Yes.
What do you do with the turban?
I just brought it for table garnish, but I would do it the exact same as the butternut squash. I'd roast it, I'd season it with some inert sugar, like the maple syrup. I'd add salt and pepper. I'd keep a nice earthy herb like a rosemary or a thyme on there. And that's what I would do with that squash. I'd serve it as a side dish.
Are there any, before we start plating, are there any herbs that you would not pair with squash? Is there like a flavor combo that doesn't work?
Maybe dill or tarragon or chervil.
Okay.
Probably wouldn't go, but a heartier herb would definitely go with squash. Yep.
Do you trust your nose in those pairings? Or?
Parsley, thyme, rosemary, fried sage, the Simon and
All good.
Garfunkel of herbs.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Any questions before we start plating? Last questions for Chef?
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna plate up butternut squash ravioli with butternut squash soup. You're gonna get on top of that, you're gonna get a glazed walnut, okay? And what I call a dees spice. A dees spice is a spin on Burberry. It's a Eastern African spice. It's got cinnamon and cardamom, and then it's got some hot paprika and garlic and cumin and Thai bird chilies. This is a really nice, just for a little tang on there. And then
we
I
have a
fried some
question?
sage. We're gonna get your question, hold on. Why do I fry the sage? Because it really takes that pungent flavor off the sage. So I want you to try that and let me know what you think. And then over here, I'm gonna put a pan of the roasted butternut squash and a pan of the spaghetti squash and a pan of the acorn squash, okay? And you can help yourselves to that. Does that sound like a good plan? What's your question?
Delicious.
What kind of sauce do you use for the ravioli?
The butternut squash soup.
This one's going in soup. If you
Now-
wanted to make a pasta on its own, what do you recommend?
I would do a brown butter. So you would take a whole pound of butter and just cook it down nice and slow, let all the milk solids evaporate, and let it start to get a nice amber color. And I would do fried sage and brown butter and add a little bit of fresh cream. That's a great sauce for butternut squash ravioli. Yep. Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. Can
All
we
right.
give Chef a round of applause? Thank you.
Thank
and then
you very
we'll
much.
We'll start sampling.
Don't go anywhere. You're going to love this food, I promise. Okay. So let's put some plates over here on this side.